Good morning. I am going to be out again today, so I'm leaving you this video to try to assist you with your work today. Now, I tried to give you a break yesterday. I gave you something that should have been pretty friendly without the calculators, and I understand that some classes were very responsible, respectful, and did a great job for me yesterday. I appreciate you. But I also understand that there were several classes that decided that it was clown around, goof off day, and did a rather disrespectful job for the sub. There will be consequences when I return, but the severity of those consequences depends upon how you behave today. So I believe in redemption. I want to see you do a better job today so that hopefully next week we don't spend the week talking about what respect and proper behavior for a sub looks like. So, to start off with, we're talking today about volume. You have 3 formulas for volume. Now, without the calculators, 2 of these 2 especially, I'm expecting to really give you more problems because they have these lovely fractions in them. And I understand a lot of us really still stress out about fractions. I'd like to leave a little bit of that stress today, and I'm going to show you a nice trick that if you are multiplying by fractions, so this works only when we're multiplying by fractions, you can use this trick to get rid of them and not really have to address them. It makes the work by hand a little easier. So here's the trick. I'm going to write a little note about it up here in the corner. Anything that's on the top, and this is when I'm multiplying, anything on the top is what I'm multiplying by. Anything that's on the bottom is what I divide by. So this is a nice little trick that would enable me to rewrite these formulas actually so that they'll be easier for you to work with today. And it'll help me to be able to do this by hand without having to worry so much or think so much about these fractions. So if I look at the sphere formula, what's on top? The 4. So that's what I'm going to multiply by all the way across. So it's 4 pi r to the 3rd. That's all multiplied. Then, because the 3's at the bottom in the denominator there, that's what I'm going to divide by. So I would multiply everything here and then divide by the 3 at the end. This is the same formula. I haven't broke any rules to rewrite it like this. Now, when I look at the cone, it's a similar process. What number's at top? A 1. So I'm going to multiply by the 1 everything on the top. Well, if I multiply by 1, nothing changes. So it's simply going to be pi times radius squared times height. But what does change is the number at the bottom tells me I have to divide by 3. So knowing that little trick, I can rewrite these formulas so that they're a little easier for me to deal with doing the mathematics by hand, doing the calculations by hand. Now, knowing that, we're going to look just at the sphere on number 3 as an example so that you can see me work one out. I'm going to do this one by hand so that those of you that don't have a calculator have a little extra instruction on that. So if we look at number 3, it actually has another issue. For my formula, and so I'm doing problem number 3, volume is 4 pi r cubed. We're talking about a sphere, so the r is cubed, not squared like the others, over 3. I'm going to divide it by 3, and I'm using that altered one that I came up with just a minute ago because it's going to be easier to do by hand. Now, r stands for radius. We discussed this earlier this week. I look at the sphere they gave me, and they gave me the diameter. To get the radius is really simple. All I do is take the diameter and divide it by 2, or half it. Half of 12 would be 6. Half of 4 would be 2. That's my radius. So now I'm going to go in and plug in all the numbers into the formula. So it's going to be 4 times pi is 3.14 times my radius is 6.2 cubed. Then I'm going to put that all over 3. I've got to divide by 3 before I'm done. This is going to take me a little while if I'm doing it by hand. Once I get it set up, I'm going to get this out of our way because we don't need it anymore. The next thing I need to do is I need to follow order of operations. These are not parentheses, they're multiply. So I've got a bunch of multiply, I've got an exponent, I've got a divide here at the bottom. So the exponent goes first, right? So now over here to the side, I'm going to do 6.2 times 6.2. So 4. That's going to be 12, carry my 1, 37, correct? We add those together, I get 4, 4, 8, 3. Okay. Now, am I done? No. Miss King made this mistake already once this morning. This is a cube. I have to do it again. So, I also have to pay attention to the decimals. If I had 2 decimals here, I have to have 2 decimals in my answer. So, I still have to multiply it by 6.2 again. So 2 times 4, 8, 8, 16, carry my 1, I get 7, 4, oh, carry my 2, I get 6, carry my 2, that's going to be 50, that's 18 plus 5, goodness, Miss King's having trouble this morning. I'm going to add all this together. Okay, we can already see how very, very disturbing this is to do by hand, right? Now, I'm also going to, because I don't want to do this again, and I don't have time to be here one more time again, I'm going to double check. Whoops. See, I can't even use a calculator right today. Here we go, guys. My calculations. So, again, I had 1, 2, 3 decimals, so my answer should have 3 decimals. So I've got 238.328 by hand. Now, we can see how very rough that is to do by hand. To save a little time this morning, I did do one of the decimal multiplications by hand. I'm going to do some of the rest of it in the calculator just to speed it up. If someone in your group has a calculator, there's no rule that says you can't share calculators. This is really hard without them. I would so greatly appreciate to have our calculators returned to us because it makes things really hard. I can do this by hand, but it takes forever. Alright, now, so I've only done the cube, so I'm going to put that in place there. I've still got all the rest of this to do, so I'm rewriting it. Now, I can use my calculator at this point and just multiply everything across there. So I've already got that number keyed in. I've got to multiply that by 3.14, and I also have to multiply that by, now I'm already in trouble, 4. The good news is at the end I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, so not too big of a deal if the calculator is getting really full. So when I multiplied this out in this particular calculator, I'm getting this. So volume equals this. Still have to divide it by 3. So last step, I'm going to divide it by 3, and I'm going to get volume equals 997.5 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, raise the score. 9 is more, I raise the score. So that 7 is going to become an 8. We're talking about miles, and this should be cubed. I hope this example helps you today. I hope my advice for the fractions helps you as well. Because some of you may have a calculator that does no more than this, so you can't key the fractions into them. By the way, if this calculator happens to belong to you, please talk to the sub today, because it's been in my room for a couple of days. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'm sorry I couldn't be with you today. Be good for the sub. Remember, consequences depend upon your behavior today. Some of you have already earned some consequences, and they can get worse.